Okay, guys, I'll be honest here, okay? It's a bit hurtful for me, okay? I'm a bit hurt, all right? I'm a bit hurt, okay? I'm actually a little bit hurt, okay? I'm actually a little bit sad. And it's not just hurting me, it's hurting my community, right? Because guys, we've been working on this for years. You can shit on everything you want. Lots of people have said many times that Jupiter is not the best product in DeFi, right? You know, and I use it every day, right? So it's like to like completely neglect that years of work we put into it, right? And focus on things that is kind of misunderstood, right? I don't think that's fair, but unfortunately, that's actually where like the majority of attention is. It's not just hurting me; it's hurting my whole community, right? And hurting my whole team, right? You know, so that's actually where a lot of my frustration comes from. Yeah.
Today, we're chatting with Meow. Meow is the founder of JupiterSwap, which is one of the biggest dexes on Solana. And it's also one of the biggest talking points among many crypto communities on crypto Twitter due to its recent controversial sort of airdrop mechanism that they deployed. Typically, Twitter is the home for generating FUD for coins that you missed the opportunity out on. And but in the case of Jupiter, I feel like it was things were slightly different because influencers with large followings attacked Jupiter and its founder with outright misinformation. That was sort of my takeaway from this conversation with Meow. So in today's interview, we address all the misinformation, the controversy, learn what he would do different if he would go back in time, the improvements that we can expect in the upcoming airdrop, and the future of LFG, Jupiter, and his thoughts on Solana. But my main takeaway from Meow as like a founder and a personality in the crypto space is that he's sort of like this outlier who's not afraid to voice his unique opinions, and he's a person that says the quiet part out loud. What does Ivan think? Ivan, what was your takeaway from today's interview?
Hello everybody, Alp with me today, as always. Alp is the head of videos at Defiant, a video magician, and an expert when it comes to everything per hand anyway. We have indeed the founder of Jupiter today, as Alp said, and me coming into this, I was totally unprepared for two reasons. One of them, me being lazy. Second one, I actually have a job, a wage cock, like many of you. And the third one is I am not Solana native. So to me, to get to the deep things of some of the projects takes a while. And that's what happened. We read some of the highlights and some of the headlines on the Twitter influencer posts, and it turned out, at least the way we understood it after this interview, is that it wasn't just misleading, it was plain fucking wrong. Like, really, really wrong. Again, we'll do our due diligence again later, and you can do so as well, and you should comment about whether the things Meow said were true or not, but at least the perception I have of Meow from this call is actually very positive. As Alp said, seems like an outlier, is not afraid to speak out those things. Whether that is a good quality for a founder and not being a narrative suck-up as to say all the time is a good or a bad thing, I guess that's up to everybody subjectively to judge. But the conversation, as you can see at some point, got heated up quite fast. And that was a great thing because we managed to have like a person-to-person conversation rather than a usual podcast where it's like, sir, what does your token do? Sir, what is the next stage of your project? Who the fuck cares? Or rather, we all care. And that is very easy to read, but it's just very boring to listen to. So hopefully after Alp edits, you will get some conversation and information that is more distilled. How do you say it actually? The conversation that is more real and more human. Things like when it comes to a founder's life, how you should be able to take the punches and how you should commemorate and pay respects to the investors and community that you had, let's say, from the previous days. That's at the end. So, end of the day, overall, ended up being quite an interesting one, I feel like. Very lively, very heated. Some of the fact-checking is up to you to do. We will do our own. But, again, the stigma that was out there on the founder, on Meow himself, and on the project seems to have been largely overblown. Coming into this, I only really somewhat to an extent, deeply researched the part about the token launch model. And me being not a geek because I'm moronic, more so me being interested in all things tokens, launches, and all of that other gamification stuff, that actually seemed to me like a pretty strong, interesting model to be done, which allows you to make a lot of money, but also comes with a big risk from the team side. And anyway, that's what the interview is about. You can learn about the launch, the controversies, the heated arguments, learnings as a founder, and how to get over these stages when it comes to hype and FUD. But before all of that stuff, let's start by hearing an introduction from Meow about how he got to Solana, what was his history in building, and how he got started with Jupiter in the first place.
Hey Meow, it's great to have you here. Thank you for joining the show.
Hello, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too. So let's kick it off. Meow, we all know you as Meow. I couldn't find much information on you besides like your official website. So I'd love to like get it started with like maybe an introduction to who you are, what you're doing, and what led you to building Jupiter.
I guess I got started in crypto about a few years ago. And I think since then I've done a lot of things. I think I actually did quite a number of things in Ethereum as well. We started with Kyber, Interdep, and then built WPTC, right? As well, and was also advisor to Blockfolio, which was one of the largest like portfolio apps. I think and been working in the Solana ecosystem for about 3 years now, right? Started with a different project, and then we started Jupiter, right? And then so been a while, yeah.
What initially brought you to Solana then? Because you said you were so core in Ethereum before. We maybe even chatted through alternative accounts at some point in time then, because I didn't know you were so back deep in Ethereum. But what made you switch at first?
I mean, I don't consider it switching, right? I think I consider it like because for me I've always believed in the multi-chain world, right? So the part of the reason why I did WTC was that I wanted to we were very very serious about saying that, hey, how do we kind of like make BTC as usable in Ethereum as possible, right? So I feel like and since then I've also been working on a lot of multi-chain things. So yeah, I think it's not so much that I switched. I don't think of it as switching to Solana, but more like, hey, like it's a multi-chain world. How do I gain experience in a completely different stack, right? And ecosystem. Because as we all know, the EVM stack is very well established, right? And then it has its own quirks, its own mechanisms, and then with the L1 and L2, right? And also obviously the whole EVM is an extremely well set up and extremely researched community. So I think part of it is also the desire to explore new grounds, to go into a ecosystem that's a lot more newer, right? A tech stack that's a lot more unproven, right? And I think so that's part of the appeal for me, I guess. And also I also think that in doing so, I think it will also really help me get a better view of the whole landscape, right? More so than just like staying in one place. So that was actually part of the core motivation, actually.
It's been a few years you've been building in Solana, and then you've advised a number of like well-known projects associated with Ethereum. What does life look like before crypto for Meow? What were you doing before you entered crypto?
Oh, I was actually in the Valley for a number of years. I started a few projects in the Valley, and also like work for some pretty prominent projects in the Valley as well, right? I think so. I was looking a lot in tech and product and growth. Yeah, so I would say that it's actually a very relevant background, for crypto.
It's been nearly a couple of weeks since one of the recently most like anticipated airdrops happened in crypto. It's among the 10th largest airdrops in crypto history, with early adopters receiving more than $700 million worth of JUP, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd like to get your thoughts on on this token in general, because like you've been quite vocal and like a prominent voice of like token utility being a myth, the token utility being the greatest distraction and value destroyer ever. So that being said, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts around why would I hold the JUP token when the founder of this project says such things? Like what is from a token holder perspective, what's the value of holding JUP in this context?
I mean, I think if you look at a lot of the Ethereum projects, right? I mean, that's not about JUP, right? That's about Ethereum projects, right? If you talk about a lot of Ethereum projects, I feel like they have managed to hold value just totally fine, like being a governance token as well. And I feel like, so that is actually one of the main contexts, right, of this conversation as well. So I think that's actually one big reason. I think, so I think actually what is actually really more important for Jupiter at this point, right, is to grow as a project. It's to continue being seen as one of the best products in DeFi. It's to continue growing the user base, right? And actually that I think that's actually way more important than emphasizing on like quote unquote token utility. Yeah, so that's my honest feedback. I feel like what I said is quite simple. I think that there's actually a lot of value in governance tokens, right? And the token representing a project, right? Now, if you don't believe that statement, right, then Uniswap should be 0, right? I mean, if the statement that a project, if your statement that a token doesn't hold any value as a representative governance of a project, right, then many tokens in the crypto will be 0.
Yes.
Right?
So like if you have no holders, then you have no value, basically, right?
Basically, no. Think about it. I mean, think about it this way, right? It's like what I'm saying is quite simple. I'm saying that like for certain tokens, right, utility is a key message, right? That Jupiter is not, right? Jupiter didn't start off by saying, hey, you know what? We are a utility token. Right, buy us for utility. We didn't say that, right? In many ways, we are more similar to like Uniswap, right? Or by saying, hey, you know what? We are here, we are governance, we represent this project, right? That is where our value comes from initially, right? Now, if you read through my exact statements, now, what I say is this, right? I didn't say no token utility. I said right now is not a time because we are still a new project, right? We're just birthed, And then I feel like the main thing right now is to really consolidate the community, consolidate the product, consolidate the brand, right, and really grow the project. Yeah, so that is actually what I think is really important. And I think the reason why I say token utility is a myth, right, is just simple. I feel like there's such intense pressure from the community, right, and especially crypto Twitter, to like force the narrative, including from you, right? You're forcing a narrative of like saying, hey, like tokens must have utility value. And then what happens is this, right? Many projects, right, what they do instead is they rush to implement some kind of utility, some kind of thing to justify token value, right? And what it does is that it actually destroys our value, right? So that's what I believe, right? So I think, again, right, what I believe very strongly is this, right? Now, for this current phase of Jupiter, the most important thing right now is to establish Jupiter as a brand, a token, and a symbol, right? And then following which we grow together, we establish a community, and then we can actually figure out the true utility together. So that's actually what I think. So I think one of the things that I've been very, very clear on as well, on Reddit as well, and on many messages as well, is that like, right now, right, it's different phases, right? Right now, Jupiter is just a beginning project, right? And we have seen from many other examples that governance and symbolic has value. And so the main thing right now is to build up, establish that first, to stay the ground first, right? And actually one of the things that I did say is, okay, let us 10x first. Let us grow our user base like crazy first, right? Because like when we grow our user base and our product set like crazy, right? That's actually when I think the idea of token utility becomes meaningful, right? When it comes to the valuation. So that's actually how I think about it. Yeah. So I think in summary, I think token utility is a very divisive topic, right, in crypto. You have many tokens, you have many projects, including like many in the Ethereum world, also outside Ethereum world, that really hangs on to the idea of governance, right? As the main utility, right? And many that argue that, okay, without some kind of mechanism, right, that there's no point to token. So I think both sides have. So I think in summary, I feel like I apologize if I come across as being too one-sided in my view, right? But it's a good time for me to crowd in this interview. That to me that is like it's not it is not a binary thing, In fact, it's a process, right? I think and for us, I think at this current stage, I believe very strongly that we need to start off with in a very simple way, right? And then as we go along, as we grow the project, then I feel like we can actually consider more things.
Makes sense. Thank you, yeah. So if I may rephrase you, it's somewhat similar to what Andrei Kronyi used to say back in the days, because he was also fed up with the narrative of like, oh, you need to do revenue sharing and stuff. He just outright at the beginning said, this token is useless, you buy it with your own risk and whatever, right? So you pretty much just don't want to deal with the bullshit attacks every now and then, right? Because as soon as, let's say you did revenue sharing, right? Or let's say you implemented new utility. In 2 days after that, people would be asking for new stuff, right? So it will never be enough, and it would only be basically distorting whatever you do with the product. So you're not saying you're not doing it, you're just saying, guys, listen, don't mix up the stuff that doesn't make sense at this stage.
Yeah, and I feel like Ivan, thank you, right? Thank you so much. Thank you, appreciate it, right? You know, I thank you for paraphrasing that, right? You know, really appreciate it. No, you're 100% right. I feel like I mean, if you look at what actually happens, is that many projects they again, it's different if your utility is part of your origin story, right? You know, but then what many projects do is that they announce a utility after that, like, you know, it pumps for like 2 seconds, right? You know, and then like it just dumps again, right? Because it's just never enough. So until we are sure, right, that okay, this project has enough, the growth engine is started, right? The revenue engine is started. Right, you know, it's like it's strong enough, it's strong and stable enough, right? Then when there's enough like sufficient like recurring thing, right? That's actually when it makes sense to kind of like discuss that, you know. But at the start, I think, I mean, part of the reason why I'm so, I mean, honestly, I took a big risk, right, in being like so affirmative at the start, you know, about this topic. It's precisely because I feel like, okay, I don't want to like over promise, right? And think about what I'm going to do. You know, at the start, right? I'd rather take the hit early on and go like, hey, this is what I believe, and this is the growth path we need to go to in order to kind of like, you know, to go there, right? Yeah. So precisely your point, right? I feel like if I just you know, just keep on promising things, right? You know, then I don't think it's a good start. You know, I'd rather just be like, hey, you know what, this is what it is right now. If we look at a lot of projects in the space, it has value. Right, you know, and it's up to the market to determine what their value is, right? And then together as a community, we grow it, and then we figure out what we can do from there. So that's how I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, totally makes sense. However, do you think like, okay, there is expectations on the token, which is not cool to give, right? Even if you want to have a narrative of the product, it doesn't mean you need to give fake narrative on the token, right? So speaking of the concrete narratives that are real, what would those be then? Let's say you said yourself, right? Product takes stages. So what stages do you see it now? For example, just by searching some on Twitter before this recording, a lot of people are basically asking that they see a big opportunity in this launchpad type of scenario, right? Launchpad type of business. And that's what they see as being one of the main drivers, because then they start comparing it to BNB, right? And things like that. So do you see it in a similar way, or you would say the focus is fully different in that specific trajectory? And apart from this one, what other ones do you see as the main drivers?
Yeah, so for sure, I think that the main thing that I think I'm pushing for right now is like it's really like, okay, can we create an on-chain exchange, right? That is a good replacement, you know, for like the current exchanges, you know, right? That is like the first step, right? Can we actually make the user experience and the trend and the quality of projects so it's like really as good as a centralized exchange, right? You know, because I feel like that is like the bar that we're trying to cross. So I feel like the first bar we're trying to cross right now is that, hey, can we actually make the exchange as can we make Jupiter as good as like really like, okay, you like go to Jupiter, you don't need to go somewhere else, right? I'm saying, right? And it's good enough like to replace the sex, right? So that's like the first bar we are going to cross, right? And that actually and that encompasses many different things, right? That encompasses like the swap itself, limit orders, DCA, and also and everything, right? So I would say the launchpad is not like the main thing, but it's like part of the whole story, you know, right? But again, I think that's the reason why I think you know, we really invested in like not just launching JUP. I mean, obviously it'll be much easier to just launch JUP, right? You know, as a token. But I think we also wanted to kind of experiment, you know, with building something along the way, you know? Yeah, so that is kind of what we did as well. Yeah. So in summary, I think long story short is that I think that the near-term trajectory is to improve the product, right? You know, to a point that like it's good enough to like such as someone doesn't need. I don't think we're there yet, to be honest. But such that we are like, you know, a legitimate like sex replacement. And after that, after we do that, then it's about kind of like really growing the user base. And then after, I think we have like, you know, a lot more longer term ideas, right? Around like, for example, how do we kind of create like a giant atomic network, right? Of all the different markets in the world, whether it's Forex and RWAs and everything. and also how do we kind of bring the stock exchange experience, right, into Jupiter as well, right? So I think there's a lot of like, so I think I'll say basically short term is like really to bring the experience product on par. Mid-term is to kind of really massively grow the user base. And then thirdly is to kind of like, can we really kind of like change the way a lot of the financial system works? Yeah, so I think those are 3 steps.
Moving on, I wanted to go back to the day of the airdrop launch and the days that followed it. The airdrop faced significant criticism. Lots of people called out on crypto Twitter for it being resembling the dynamics of an ICO. There was criticism for the team selling a significant amount of JUP. There was like another mechanism called moon protection. Can you possibly like detail the main points of criticism from the community and the critics that like really stood out to you? And what was your reaction to that?
I would say that there are 2 communities here, right? One is like the Jupiter community who actually has been part of the process, right? And the other community, which is those that haven't, I would say that it's 2 relatively different sets of people. So I think okay, let me take a step back, right? Let me take a step back, okay? What we were doing, I think honestly, I'm actually a big fan of the meta that we are creating, okay? So for those who are not too familiar, right? What we're creating here is actually quite simple, right? It's a mechanism where so you have airdrops, right? You have a pool. And then you also have all the buying activity, right? And all that happens all at once, right? That's why you call it like LFG. Let's fucking go. Whereby the airdrops whereby people claim the airdrops at the same time as the pool goes live, as well as the buying and as well as the bots and all the buying goes live as well, right? So that's actually the core mechanism at work. And actually let us take a step back, right, to revisit why we built this mechanic, right? Now, first of all, I think if you look at previous token launches, right, one thing that's actually really the previous launchpads, one thing that actually really stood out is that like they are not catered for the airdrop meta at all, right? Because when you actually have airdrops, the whole thing changed completely, right? Especially if you're doing a large airdrop Jupiter, right? You have no idea who's going to buy. You don't know who's going to sell. You got no idea what the ending price is going to be, right? That's one thing, right? Now, the other thing that's actually very important here to understand is that it's really the idea that you don't really know the true market price, right, until everything goes live. Because for example, right, you can develop different like isolated pool models, right? There's been a few in the past whereby people put in tokens and put in USDC, right? And the price is whatever that pool is, right? And then that kind of pool mechanisms is also, for example, for Balancer, you have the LDP model, right? It's similar as well, right? Now, but the issue is that like that initial pool of capital, right? The price set during that pool is not actually reflective of the price in the open market. So you don't actually know so even though there's a quote unquote price that's set in the pool, you don't actually know what's the price in the open market as well, right? Yeah. Another thing that we're trying to figure out in this token launch model is that it's something whereby like, okay, there's no priority, right? So everyone just starts at once. Right. Yeah. So there's no pre-sale. There's no pre-sale. There's no allocation. Right. But more like but everybody starts at once. So those are kind of like the core motivations for us to kind of like work through this model. Yeah. So I would say that I actually think that this model works well. I think and I think it's the right meta for many, not for every project, right? But for many projects. Yeah. I would say the mistakes that we made were more tactical. I would say that we were trying very hard to kind of protect against bots attacking the pool. That's actually why I think because that's actually why we priced the initial price a bit too high, right? If you ask me, right? So I feel like things would have worked out like pretty well if both the initial price and the max price was slightly lower. Yeah. So I think that's actually one of the main mistakes that I made. I think I over-optimized for bot protection. Yeah, because I think there was a very very big outcry in the community over bots getting most of it. So I think that's actually one big reason for us. Yeah. I would say that the other thing that I think we could have done better was that on a technical point of view, a lot of the DCA, they also fire early on, right? Didn't really fire early on, right? They fired a bit later because and there was actually a bunch of technical issues involved there, right? Yeah, so I think that's actually one other big issue as well. Then the last big issue, the last issue I would say is that I would think that I could definitely have done a better job. Actually, the thing is that actually I did write in extensive detail about how a lot of things work, right? But I think everyone who actually has been following along in terms of the Jupiter project, I think they're all very familiar with what's going to happen. But I think there were a lot of like people who just came in late, and then maybe they weren't too familiar with how the whole thing works, right? That's actually one big issue as well. And I would say that lastly, I would say that a lot of things that were discussed were just flat out wrong. A lot of numbers that are being thrown out in social media, including by a lot of influential people, were just plain wrong, right? And actually, and to attest, I think you can look at the pool now. You can, and everything's on chain. You can see exactly how many tokens were in there. You can see exactly how much was taken out, right? And it's nothing, right? Like what's being mentioned in the thing. In fact, one last thing to say is that like if you look at the pool now, you will see that actually we didn't even take out the full amount, right? We took it out bit by bit. So actually, the vast majority of pool is still in there, right? You know, for anyone to sell into, you know, if they want to, right? You know. Yeah, so I think I feel like we addressed so in summary, I think we addressed everything really well. I think, you know, that's how I think about it. Yeah.
Thank you for the thorough reply on this. I myself like token models and all of the token launches and things, so it's very interesting to me. And as much as I want to shit on the models, and I always shit on things for no reason, I feel like your approach was actually quite cool. If I may say so, it's like having an airdrop be released at the same time as having a balancer pool being live, right? So it's like if you combine those two things at a time, to an extent, right? Because you essentially are able to raise money, but then if the airdrop comes in and it's all sold into, you essentially almost don't take anything at all, except for the fees that you have for swapping, right? And those, of course, if you put higher to the USDC side, it makes sense because end of the day, you are essentially risking all of the raise that could have happened, right? You could have also just opened it at a lower price, right? And just pocket all the money. Instead, you basically gave it like a plunge protection. Yes, it's not forever, but you took that risk anyway, right? Like the risk was there that it would have been much, much less. So honestly, personally, I feel like the model is quite beautiful and it really is cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I to your point, okay, so I think let me just address a couple of things that I could have done better, right? Because it's actually pretty, again, I think, hey, in all clarity, I feel like I did say many times that I'm willing to, you know, I think I'm testing things out. Right, you know, right, and so one of the things that I think we learned a lot, guys. We learned a lot. Okay, I don't pretend to do everything perfectly, but we learned a lot, and I think, and part of the thing that I need to do is also kind of a postmortem, right? But actually, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for learning, right? So I can help other projects, right? You know, do better, you know, right? So now, I'll tell one major learning, right? One major learning that I learned is that, like, you know, I think we pretty much set our max price too high, such that it became a anchor, you know, right? So you don't really want that, you know. So I think that's actually one thing that we did. But again, I feel like a lot of that is actually, you know, because we were very afraid of botting. I mean, if you followed the kind of conversations that happened, and that's totally my fault, right? You know, because I think I was too worried about that, you know. Yeah, but if you follow a lot of the earlier conversations before we launched, a lot of it was about how to prevent the botters from getting most of the pool, right? And the easiest way to do that, obviously, I mean, you can do all kinds of technically sophisticated things ways of doing that, right? We did that, right? You know, but then like the best and most economical way is to just, like, you know, increase the entry price. But I think in doing so, I think you know, I think we went too far in that extent, you know. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, I think the other thing to response to what Ivan is saying. Is that, yeah, I mean, it's open marketing, right? It's that, like, that's it. One of the most important things here is that there's no pre, right? There's no ICO, there's no pre, there's nothing. It's just it's literally the same thing as opening a liquidity pool, right, on Uniswap or whatever. I'm telling you, from a mechanical point of view, it's exactly like going to Uniswap and putting LP, right? That's it, right? I'm not kidding, right? So yeah, I think that was actually a really big deal as well. You know, the fact that like there's no pre-allocation, there's no pre-anything, right? It's just like, you know, all in the open market. Yeah. And so I also argue that this is like the most this is by far the most transparent thing you can go. You don't go more, you can't get more transparent than this, right? You know, than a team putting up a set of liquidity at a given price, right? You know, at a given price range, right? You know, that anyone can see and do. And also by the way, any USDC is there, right, in the pool, right? And again, we actually took a really big risk, right? Because it was supposed to be 3 days, right? But then after everyone came in, we made it 7 days, right? Actually, a lot of people were scolding us for making it 7 days. They actually didn't want us to make it 7 days, right? They actually want us to keep it 3 days because they think that, okay, it's hampering the price volatility, right? You know, so actually they wanted to make it lower. But I think for us, we made it 7 days, and then in fact, even after 7 days, we only took out a small part of the pool, right? Lots of the pool is still there, right? So I feel like I think we have gone above and beyond in refuting a lot of the criticisms that we are there just there for the money or just there. Hey guys, I mean, I will say this, right? We built this thing for years, right? We built one of the best products in DeFi for years, right? And then to come in here and say that we are all those things, you know, while not really recognizing the mechanic, I don't think that's fair, to be honest. Yeah, I still think so. I still think that's fair.
Yeah, I would agree with you here. As much as I love shitting on people, and I always shit on people, like I feel like the way you had your model was quite unique. I mean, unique for Solana, right? On Ethereum, you could have done it with the Uniswap range pool, right? Price, and then some, I don't know, balancer-like mechanics. Doesn't really matter, right? Point was, you did something new with it. It potentially could have made a lot of money. It could potentially also have made very little money, right?
Yeah.
And you were transparent and taking the risk. And I don't see it being bad. Whether the prices could have been established a bit differently on the levels or not, that's a different point of topic, right? Because again,
precisely,
if you weren't that hyped, you would have different prices, right? You can never know when the exact ceiling is and when the exact bottom is. You could have also made the entire thing without price levels and completely made it as such that every buyer would have an average price that is the same for everybody, right? That would probably not have the effect that you wanted then with the price discovery, right? So again, numbers could have been different, but I feel like there are other things you can be shut on, and maybe we should move to those, because this one I feel like you explained really well enough, so we don't need. I feel like
I think so too. Shit on me for other things. Come on, man.
Let's come on. Let's shit on them.
Shit on me.
When you were getting into it, right? When you were getting to the model and testing it, why did you have to make stuff with other assets? Let's say prior to it, why? What was the rationale there? That I feel like is the criticism that I at least could side with a little bit more. But again, I don't have the full context, so I would love to understand what's your perspective on that.
Oh, you mean other assets to try
like
it?
Before JUP, yeah.
Like, for me, it's having fun, right? For me, it's about having fun, right? For me, I think I wanted to be. For me, it's more like, okay, we're building a launchpad, right? You know, and then so again, I feel like the context here is actually important, right? Is that like we are building a launchpad, right? You know, we are not launching. I feel like and launchpads need testing, right? You know, and the important thing about testing is that it's not a technical test, right? It's not a technical test at all, right? You know, it's actually a market, a community, and a test. So I feel like and to me, it was like, I think to us, it was like, okay, like, and by the way, just to be clear, we actually improved our backend systems dramatically, right? You know, before those things, every single test that we did, right, we figured a lot of things that were not working that well, right? You know, whether whether it's UI point of view, infra point of view. I mean, it was actually a lot of load, right? I mean, guys, think about it, right? It's like you really haven't. I don't know of that many projects that handle $1 million account drop, right? You know, or more than that, right? So I think that's actually one thing that I think, and things just keep going haywire, right? You know, in each of these things. So I feel like fundamentally, okay, I'll say this thing, right? Fundamentally, we're product people, okay? And I bring this to my grave, right? You know, right? Is that we are product people, right? We don't really see things from a point of view of like, oh, okay, it's more like, okay, we are testing the product. right? So that's actually one main thing. And then the things that we did actually make a lot of mistakes and learn a lot, right? Like it or not, I'm saying like from point of view, right? Even for other coins like the WEN coin, like honestly, I think the price curve was actually completely different, right? At the price curve completely different. It was at a really low price, and then like it had a very steep curve. I think, by the way, anyone who is watching this thing, right, can also check out lfg.jup.ag/design. You know, we have this like really cool like modeling tool there, right? That you can actually set your minimum price, max price, and the parameter and the curve, and see and have different kind of like understanding, right? How we can actually model the curve, right? The launch curve. So for that, we have very different curve. We have very different audience, very different like semantics, right? Yeah. So I think and I think overall, I think actually went well. Actually, the thing went even now it's still like double or close to double of the launch price. You know, of the max launch price, right? I think the mistake there was not actually around the token, right? It was actually around the part that it got overhyped, right? It got overhyped so bad, right? You know, because the launch actually went really well. The pool cleared out really fast, right? But I think it just got overhyped in my opinion, right? Later on, you know, and I think and also like also in both cases, I feel like the big lesson for me in both the WEN coin and also JUP coin was that okay, when the liquidity pool removal, right, becomes a really big deal for people, you know, right? It's like when the liquidity pool is like withdrawn, right? Then there could actually be a lot of FUD, right, around that, right? But the good thing is this, right? It's like now that we've gone through a couple of rounds, and then people are actually familiar with the mechanism, future teams are going to be able to take out the liquidity pool, right, with much less FUD, you know, and much less fear, right? You know, so I feel like going through that process was actually really important for the Launchpad, you know? Again, guys, as a product builder, right, it doesn't make sense for me to go to a project and be like, hey, you know, like use this thing until I've proven it, right? You know, so I think that is actually so I think doing a couple of launches was the least I could do, you know, to kind of like, you know, make sure that I understand the whole thing well enough.
We never put a name on it, but Ivan was referring to the WEN token, I guess, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Do you have any plans for what's going to happen next with this, or it was just an experiment and you're just going to let the community decide where?
No,
it goes
bro. Come on, man. There's a big team running it now, right? There's a really come on, that's not fair, right? You know, even to make a statement, that's not fair, right? You know, because there's actually a really competent team running it. There's lots of updates going on every day. It's anchoring a new anti-standard. Right, you know, the active community is really active. Check it out, man. www.wencoin.com. wencoin.com. I feel like it's not fair that you're coming into this interview essentially with a lot of assumptions, right? Around like how things work, you know, because like this project is actually it's actually anchored by a really good team, right? And that was actually the plan from day one, communicated clearly from day one, right? This is a team that is like really good and really smart. And yeah, so I think I feel like people should really be more conscious of that. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, not assumptions. So the point was basically because as you said yourself, there have been many accusations that don't have basis, right? So what I was just taking, you know, a comment from the outside to let you like explain how it is not true. Because for instance, for me, I am not Solana native at all. I've always been in Ethereum, so my knowledge of Solana is not that huge. So thanks for you taking the time and explaining this stuff. Because for me as an outsider, as you said yourself, I look at those posts that people post, right? By presumably people who have brains. And if you dig deeper to them, right? A lot of those are accusations. So Alp wasn't making an assumption, no offense at all.
No.
It's just that that's what we see from the outside. Alp, you're not Solana native fully either, right? So that's just what we see. So we were asking only from the perspective like, okay, that's what people say, right? So the fact that there is a team, to be honest, to me, I knew there was some team behind it, but I also thought it was like an experiment, you know, because that's how those influencers portrayed it. Exactly. So that's good that you were saying it, yeah.
So can I get a question? What is not an experiment? You know, right? What is not an experiment, right?
Yeah, I mean, like in the more, I get what you mean. Yeah, it's a similar topic to the tokens, right, and the utility. Those are also people when they say revenue sharing and stuff like that, right? Those are also just narratives. They are not actually concrete things, right? Like you said yourself. if you were to promise JUP revenue sharing on day one, it wouldn't really make any sense, right? You would just be playing into the mob's hand and giving them what they want, and they would be asking you for new bullshit already tomorrow, right? Again, I'm not arguing with you. I'm actually confirming what you said. So yeah, in that sense, agree. Yeah. I wasn't.
Sorry. I want to apologize for like any rudeness, right? I might have conveyed. Right?
No, you should be totally saying that. You're totally right. If I were at your place, I would be fucking pissed, to be honest. So,
I just feel like a lot of things have been communicated before very clearly at the start, and also a lot of context has been given at the start, right? And it is like I do feel like in many of these interviews that I have been on, or even on those for those Twitter posts that you're mentioning, it just doesn't seem to come from a good place, right? It's like For me, I'll be honest with you, right? It's like if you look at my track record, right? I feel like I've always been extremely supportive of other projects, right? Whether it's Ethereum or Solana or whatever, right? I've never been like anything else, I think. So I think it's a bit okay, guys, I'll be honest, okay? It's a bit hurtful for me, okay? I'll be hurt, all right? I'll be hurt, okay? I'm actually a little bit hurt, okay? I'm actually a little bit sad, all right? I feel like a lot of those and it's not just hurting me, hurting my community, right? Because guys, we've been working on this for years, and then guys building. You can shit on everything that you want, right? But it's quite. Lots of people have said many times that Jupiter is one of the best products in DeFi, right? And I use it every day, right?
I heard it. Yeah.
So it's like to like completely neglect that years of work we put into it, right? And focus on things that is kind of misunderstood, right? I don't think that's fair, but unfortunately, that's actually where like the majority of attention is. It's not just hurting me; it's hurting my whole community, right? And hurting my whole team, right? So that's actually where a lot of my frustration comes from. Yeah.
No, totally understandable. And apologies from my side. I was on a train last 2 days, so I didn't do that much.
No. Thank you.
You're totally right. I should have done more due diligence on it because you are correct that even if we don't make assumptions by asking those questions, we do bring it from a negative point of view, right?
You mentioned that I come from like with assumption or something, but like that was definitely not my like point to come and put you on like a negative light. As Ivan said, like I'm at the end of the day, I'm a journalist and I need to take the voices of the public and bring it out to you as well. And typically, I understand that like you're frustrated about this as well. I would be frustrated in your place as well. But like one thing that we have to understand that these people are doing that for engagement. Like they're playing the Twitter game, and that's why they're doing this bullshit like commentary. Like because it became so popular to shit on Solana and Solana products because a lot of people just missed out on the train. At the end of the day, that's why we're having this conversation with you as well, because a lot of things that were unclear for me or like I didn't understand. I'm asking to you. Apologies if you took it the wrong way, but I'm just trying to understand.
It's like because okay, like honestly speaking, I feel like the team actually worked really hard, right, for the last 3 years, right? It's like and honestly, from a financial reward point of view, I can tell you we really didn't get much. Really, seriously, we didn't, right? It's like even now we are leaving, guys. To be clear, we are leaving 10 million. We took in 10 million in the pool, right? We left like vast majority in the pool right now, right? And it's at the risk of being shorted, being dumped on, being fathered on, right? And we do that because we wanted to kind of like prove, right, to the haters, right? Not haters, not to the community that dude, so many people were saying we were doing it for the money, right? It's like, guys, I mean,
every single tweet, yeah. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but every single tweet says that. That's why I mentioned it a couple of times. I'm an Ethereum DeFi. Maybe you heard, maybe Gearbox, not a big project, or like Lobster DAO, a community. Yeah. So like because I was on DeFi, what is it, since 2000, not to lie, 20. I also, even the circle of people who just love to shit on Solana for no reason, just because, like how early Bitcoin people love to shit on Ethereum. For no fucking reason. I was big about that, yeah. So I'm just exposed to the same stuff. So honestly, a lot of the stuff I've seen about Jupiter, any Solana friends I have, they always say it's a great product. Anybody outside of Solana really goes proactively to shit on it. And I don't even understand what the reason is. Like, so that's what I meant. I allow myself to shit on stuff also, which is not a good quality, by the way. That's not a good quality.
It's fine.
But in this case, when I saw the model, I was like, the model, like, you can tell anything, but the model actually makes sense. Like, it's like if you allow, like you took the risk. You had, again, not to rephrase yourself to the third time, but there was money, but you took the risk and you are still taking the risk. So I still don't understand how people shit on it. Like, it's just a very genuine model. It wasn't just an ICO where all money goes to you. Yes, there were fees that were high on USDC side, but again, you could have also just raised the same amount.
The fees actually go to a DAO, by the way, right? 75% of fees go to DAO, right? It's not even by us. We don't even take the money.
Okay, so see, like every single thing I've seen on Jupiter online, people shitting, was basically wrong, every one of them. And I know people love to shit on people who are successful, right? But in this case of Jupiter, I feel like everybody went out of their way to shit extra hard. Like, I haven't seen that level of shittery in a long, long time, right, Alp?
Like, I'm like, okay,
so many
right?
enemies. Man, why did you make so many enemies? Like, I've seen people.
I don't know. I'm so nice. Like, dude, I'm so nice. Like, I don't shit on anything. I'm actually really nice. Like, seriously. Like if you look at anything I did and stuff, the WTC, Instadab, Kyber, I'm so nice. Everyone who looks at me knows I'm nice.
Yeah, I think if anything, you should see this all like negativism and like hatery as a sign of success. Because if you're not, if
it's hard still, Alp. Yeah. I know it's easy to say, but
dude, it's so hard, man.
It's hard.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
Andre, by the
Absolutely.
way. You know Andre Cronje?
I know, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were close friends before. Now a bit less because he's doing only Phantom stuff. But he was also going through similar things. And again, some people really hate him. But if you knew him as a builder, I don't know what your opinion of him is. But he also was faced with quite a few similar things. And at some point, the hate just got like. I remember people like back in the days, like Wire co-contributors and like Ethereum, they were like supporting him. And these days, whenever people shit on him, I don't even see anybody protect him. So somehow people just mix up their own shit and like poop into, how do you call it? Don't shit where you live, right? Or like and they for some reason do it, yeah. Anyway, good that we got it out of the way. And they're very glad to have this call because now my opinion of Jupiter and like your steps has changed a lot in the positive direction, of course, because before I only saw shit online, so it's good that we are doing this interview and hopefully making things less shitty in terms of public optics. Yeah.
I feel like what frustrates me the most is that I feel like we are very misunderstood, It's like we really worked our ass off for a few years and stuff, and we are here trying to create a new model for guys, let me take a more organic view on things, right? If you guys have just a couple of minutes, is that like we were stuck, man. We were stuck. We were not sure how to do it, man. It's like we had this massive airdrop that's going on, right? That might or might not, like we have no idea, man. Like, is there actually enough liquidity, in the market to absorb such a big airdrop, right? We don't know, right? Right? And also at the same time, I think in the such a really high expectation of the price is, right? We didn't set the price, by the way, right? This is not what we set, right? It's kind of what the market thought it would be, right? Whether it's in the perps market or the whales market, right? Other predictions, right? So in many ways, I think what we're trying to do is that we're trying to say, hey, you know what? Given a project, given our situation, right? By the way, and another thing that's important is this, right? I did mention this before, right? It's that in Breakpoint, I did actually mention that 20% of the token was going to be for token sale, right? So I think it was 20%, by the way, right? Which obviously wouldn't make sense, given the valuation, right? But and we kept scaling that back, right? The 20 to 10 to 5, now in 2.5. I'm saying it just kept staying that all the way back, right? To one where we think it would be reasonable, right? Right? And again, I think even though I think the final outcome is pretty reasonable, I think it was still as Ivan was saying and stuff, right? It was still like there were some parameters that could be better. Right, but now I know. I think now I know. Hey, I can tell other projects, right? Hey, you know what? It's really important that you set this curve in the right way, right? Right. So I feel like so I think in other words, I feel like three things, right? We genuinely had no idea, kind of like how the dynamics will come about, right? And secondly, that we did actually want to offer tokens, right, in a way that we wanted to be as transparent as possible. And again, I think you can shit on the model for a lot of things, but what you can't say is that it's very transparent. Right? The whole thing is there, right? And you can literally see how much is taken out, right? And then we don't take anything until 3 days or 7 days or months later, right? So I feel like you again can shit on it for many things and stuff. You can't shit on us for like saying that, oh, we took the money out, things like that. You can't say that, right? And I think and lastly is that I think that is that like I do actually think that we spend a very long time. This didn't come from. I think part of the reason for like the surprise is that I think I think part of the disparity between our community, what our community sees and what the outside world sees, is that our community knows that we've been here for years, and grinding over every single aspect of the product, right? From the infra side to the routing side to the UI side to the ecosystem building side, and also to kind of like really kind of making it work awesomely. For example, I'll give a simple example, right? For example, you have like CLOBs, you have DEXs, you have also a lot of like other liquidity models on Solana that's actually not anywhere else. So making them all, and then we have 3 token standards. We have 3 token standards: SPL22, Token 22, and the SPL standards, and making all of them work well together, right, in one single thing. It was actually a lot of work. It wasn't trivial, and obviously building on top of that the limit order and the DC and the perps and now Launchpad. It was just a lot of effort to come together, So I feel like maybe if you're new to the whole thing, you just go, oh, this is shitty, or whatever, right? But then if you're part of a community, you see the work that's been done over the years, right? So I feel like that's actually one disparity I see, about why there's such a big disparity in opinions, between someone who just goes like, oh, why is this thing worth X? Versus people, oh yeah, this makes sense because they've been working for years, So I feel like that could actually be another reason, right? Why there's such a big disparity in opinions, Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, people can shit on valuations and prices as much as they want, right? That is fully subjective, and you cannot do anything about it. I mean, the only thing you can do is keep executing, and then at some point, people's over exceeding expectations will be matched. Whether that's the case or not, market can only tell, right? But indeed, about the model and the progress that has been done, that just doesn't seem fair to shit on that. So thanks again for clarifying those parts. I don't even know how, but I saw literally at least 4 different posts that claimed that WEN was simply an empty shitcoin being launched to test the platform and for Meow to make like dozens of millions of dollars. I've seen literally many posts like that from people I thought actually who had brains. How could they... I don't even understand how could that have been twisted so hard, right? Like...
I don't
this
know.
Is very different, right? Like that's reality. Like,
I mean, I don't know either. First of all, I made 0 of WEN. 0. I mean, like 0, like 0. You can check on chain, off chain, 0. You know what I'm saying? Done. Right? Whatever. Right? And secondly is that it's a good coin. I think the only problem is they're overhyped. Right? I think they're overhyped. I didn't do the hyping. Right? I take responsibility for everything that happened. Right? And I think and I recognize that things could have done better. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's a good coin. I think it's a good project. There's a real team behind it. They're making a lot of like, great community behind it and stuff. And then I think it went well. I think the whole launch went really well. I think the problem actually for when the problem happened after the launch, it got way overhyped. Right? Yeah. So the launch itself went well. Like a massive airdrop, like over like few 100,000 people got the airdrop, right? And they were really happy with it, right? And the community got formed, right? The issue was that after the launch happened, that it got way overhyped, right? And then there was also a bunch of like hype and FUD around the liquidity, right? And the burn, right? I think I think we could have managed that hype a lot better. But then again, we didn't really like I think hype is one of those things that we can't really control. But again, I guess one of the things that I'm very happy about is that right now, after everything, including this interview, I feel like hopefully people understand things better now, right? And certainly I feel like for other projects you can do better. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. And again, sorry for coming in with not negative assumptions, just very shitty information. They put it like that. And I'm just, again, surprised how shitty the information is these days about it, because I know people lie, people make up facts for clicks, right, for engagement. But in this case, I feel like it's just way perverted. Like, that level of pervertism I don't even see in hentai, Even hentai is less perverted than the stuff they were making up. So.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, if you know what you watch, but hentai is really cool. I don't know.
Yeah. We know. We are experts in that, sir. We're experts.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I'll ping you privately, to ask you.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe let's just continue on with the future. What's next for Jupiter? So the third crucial component of Jupiter that you called Jupiter United Planet Can you possibly break down the upcoming phase and what the 3 components involved in this phase are?
Yeah, like thanks for asking. I feel like there's 3 parts of Jupiter, right? I think like JUP.ag, we call it the 3 JUPs, right? You got JUP.ag, which is the platform and the product, right? And the goal is to really build that into the best on-chain platform, right, in crypto, right? And then the second part is of course the token, $JUP, right, which is the governance token, and ideally in the future become a currency, of the JUP. If the JUP economy becomes big enough, right, then it can become currency, right? I think, and lastly the JWP, right, which is kind of like the community, the work groups, and the DAO, right? Because I do think that Jupiter as a project has 3 key parts, which is the platform, the token, and also the community, right? And I think I guess the important thing here is that I think people emphasize the DAO, right? But as we all know, the DAO in and of itself is not very useful. The DAO in and of itself is a program that people can put and they vote, right, and they release some kind of tokens, right, or whatever decisions, right. But it's really, the essence of a DAO is really in the people who put in the work in proposing the right projects, in the community that believes in the mission, right? And in all the work that is done into preparing all the grants and all the proposals and everything, right? So I think that's actually what we call JWP. It's like a collective. It's like this group of people, whether it's including the DAO, the work groups, and the community, that comes together, right? To kind of like grow Jupiter, improve Solana, and to drive the meta. Yeah. So I think that's what we call the JWP. And one thing that we announced today is the work groups. Jupiter work groups. Basically, these are like small independent groups of like community leaders who can, who each take on a critical part of the community, right? For example, our first work group is gonna focus on like LFG applications. It's gonna focus on curating the ecosystem token list. It's going to be preparing the grants, right? It's also going to be moderating the Discord, right? So I think that is actually one work group, and then we're gonna have another work group that's going to be doing like weekly ecosystem calls. Right, where we get together our partners and all our partners and community leaders and everyone to come together to kind of like a rally, right? On a weekly basis, Jupiter, right? And we might have other work groups that are more focused on content, right? Or another work group that's more focused on like like onboarding new users to Solana and Jupiter. I don't know yet, right? But the whole point is to, and then also as I mentioned earlier, what's actually really important here is that the DAO is actually funded. That's actually why like 75% of the launch pool fees go into the DAO. Right, and also DAO is also going to be incentivized to vote as well. So I think what we're doing now is to just preparing the entire so alongside improving the product, is to kind of create the entire I consider the apparatus, to actually for the community to work well, because the DAO alone itself doesn't do much, right? It's like a DAO, and then if the team does all the work, it actually doesn't really make sense. So I think a really, really big part of what we did in the last few months was to just like setting things up, for the DAO to work well, and the team to work well. Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, so that's actually going to be kind of my main focus for next couple of months. Yeah.
Do maybe put a couple of people in the DAO who would be walking around and telling shitfluencers on when they are wrong and fact checking them. Could help a long way to right, because it's not your fault in any way per se that people have misinformation and a lot of it, but it does help when people don't face it too much, right? And there is somebody fact checking. I'm making this statement as half a joke, right? But maybe not per se, because sometimes clearing that up for people who are outside is also helpful without you having to resort to it, right? Without the core team having to spend energy and time, because then again, your lives are also easier if things are clarified, right? If that makes sense.
I've been taking a lot of advice recently just to focus on stuff, right? Yeah, as opposed to responding to everything, Yeah, that's true.
I mean, during the launch, right? Couple of weeks in, couple of weeks after, you will always be bombarded with a ton of shit. With a ton of criticism, whether you did it. If the price goes up, you will be criticized for not giving enough to community. If the price goes down, they will say that you made too much money. So it will never be enough. It will never be right. So indeed,
that I accept that as part of the game. Yeah. I also accept that I have to defend my team and my community. Yeah, so that's part of the game and stuff, Yeah.
It's good that you have that perspective. I think that comes to founders only after a couple of times, because at first many are like, oh my God, this is so stressful. I didn't sign up for this. I'm like, listen, man, you work with big amounts of money. You have a big enough reward down the line. It is fun and new. So strap up, right? And don't cry.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
always say like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, put in the work on Twitter, put in the work on Discord, put in the one on podcasts, just put in the work, man, and just
if
get
you
done.
don't want to do it, go back to fucking IBM, right? That always has open doors for you. So if you don't like the
they don't want me, man. They don't want me, bro. They don't want me, man. They don't want me, man. Trust me. they don't want you either, bro. Forget it.
I mean, if Ian Balina got to it, then maybe you can do as well. You will have chances, I'm trolling.
Yeah. But you're right. I think one of the things that I'm quite sure we're shooting on time, but I think just from a very personal founder point of view, right? Is that like I feel like actually this project let's just do one last conversation, right? Since you're talking real here, okay? Let's talk real here, okay? Cool. So when we first started Jupiter, when we first started Solana, we started a project called Mercurial, right? And Mercurial didn't do well. Right, Mercurial went to shit, right? I mean, that's despite our best efforts, right? And I think that the good thing was that we didn't give up. We just didn't give up, right? We didn't give up. We started Jupiter, right? And then Mitara became Mercurial became Mitara, a new platform, right? I think as a result of as a result of this, and then now we also we took a snapshot of Mercurial. Right, we took a snapshot of Mercurial, right, on February last year, right, and now over the next now Mercurial holders are gonna get like 5% of JUP, right, and also they also form the initial stakeholders, right, Mitara, right, which is the a really up and coming, like really a highly regarded AMM on Solana now, right. So long story short is that actually Mercurial stakeholders are going to do well, right? So it's like we didn't do well at the start, right? But I think, but we never gave up, right? We kept working for them, right? And as a result, I think as a result of like Jupiter and Mitara doing well, I think we are going to be able to do well, right? For the Mercurial stakeholders, right? Even it took a while, right? Yeah. For example, every Mer would. Yeah, so I think I'm actually very proud of my team for that, right? Because despite us like not doing well, I think and facing a lot of criticisms early on, we just never gave up. As a result, I think we have 2 leading projects now, right? I think whatever happens, I think we're going to do well for them. I'm actually very proud of that. Yeah, the fact they just didn't give up. Yeah. So same for Jupiter, man. I feel like I can't promise what's going to happen to the token price in the short term. Right, that's out of my control, right, in many ways. But I think, but I will, we'll just keep working. Yeah, that's how I see it, yeah.
That's actually very genuine. Thanks for more light on this. It happens very rarely in crypto. And actually, one of the podcast ideas we had with Alp, so maybe you would even want to come on board to that one, is how some teams essentially keep the promises they made to their early backers even 5 years back, right? And then somehow try to remedy that, whoever believed in them. And some just completely shit on their communities and make new tokens 2 months into the life of a project, And it's such a huge discrepancy. Like, there are many even in Ethereum, which is like a boomer community at this point, right? Solana is more new, let's be honest. Ethereum is boomer, and I think even Ethereum people agree with it. Even there are many public teams at this point that have made 2+ coins at the same time, publicly, and it's just becoming really weird that people don't know where the limit is. Some of them just stop something and just never even do a snapshot. The only other cases like that happened that I think was really well and not regarded as much as it should be is Igor Barinov of POA Network, and then XDAI, which sold to Gnosis, right? Both essentially got the snapshot, and Gnosis DAO acquired XDAI, which then acquired POA. So a similar thing, of course. Price-wise, maybe it wasn't perfect. It has dropped already. But at least 2 projects that he did before were essentially acquired by Gnosis DAO. So in that case, thanks to Gnosis DAO, right? But still, a founder did go through the miles to do the snapshot like you did yourself, right? So that the early holders who had a belief, you cannot promise moon, right? You cannot make the snapshot that they do 100x. Maybe they only make back whatever they invested or a bit less, but you did go through the hoops you did give.
Actually, if you bought Mer at the end of a snapshot, you would do extremely well. And I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, like what I mean is you cannot always promise it and make it exactly perfect.
Yeah, precisely.
So actually, holders, so you cannot just make money for everybody end of the day. But the fact that you go through these hoops and do a meaningful amount already is a great thing to do.
Yeah, I feel like so to your point, right? I think to your point, right? It was like we were like and so to your point, it was like we had to kind of like really go through the hoops there to make it work, Yeah, but I'm happy with it. I think at the end of the day, I think the community was actually really happy with it, right? Yeah, I think I think obviously I think the thing was this, right? It was like there was a really big period of uncertainty between the snapshot, right? And also the tokens finally manifesting, right? Which took like almost a year, I think, right? But I think it turned out really well for everybody in the end, Yeah, but it took a while, I think. Yeah, but I think
you cannot make it perfect, right? I mean, you maybe could have made it perfect, but you cannot really always make it perfect. End of the day, a lot of it is intentions, right? And at least making something back to the holders who believed in whatever you were doing before. And I think that's a great effort and a great thing to do, because many people just completely shit on that, right? Because, for example, in Web 2, whenever you invest in something, right, you have this pro rata shares to whatever the founder has done. You have non-competes, right, and stuff like that. Many of the times it's bullshit, but in many cases, at least, you cannot just have a founder like completely make a token next week like this, right, after the launch, and then just go on, and the investors are basically left in the shithole. So in crypto, that happens way too often, yeah. Anyway, I was just like supporting that it is cool that you have done it, and I think more people should be taking an example from it and giving how do you call it, pay respects, right, to an extent.
Yeah. I think actually the other thing is that I think besides Jupiter, I think we also have Meteora and stuff, right? I think another thing that I think is interesting is like the whole thing about a team having multiple projects, right? Right? I think I think it's gonna be very common to have a team having multiple projects. Right, I think at the end of the day, I think it's all about just being transparent, right? I think everyone knows that we work on, right? I think is actually really important. I think,
Yeah. It's such a subjective thing, right? Because I just don't know better examples. So I'm not a Gnosis holder by any means or their friend. It's just that Gno is known to have done multiple tokens, right? You know Gnosis DAO, right? Like Gno.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, but in their case, the products are very different from what the core thing started, right? Like a safe or like a cow swap, right? So they're very different from what they began with. So, but the question is, where is that subjective line which allows you to make a new token lie, right? Does it need to, like, how different does it have to be from the first main vision? How many people new have to be in it to justify doing it, right? So that's a bit of a question. Like the resources, the optics, it's incredibly subjective, yeah.
Incredibly subjective, yeah. And I would say that it comes down to whoever invests later on, right? Like you just have to. I mean, no one. And end of the day, the wonderful thing about crypto, I think, is like I think you have to do your own research, right, into kind of like the background and everything, and everything and stuff, right, before you jump in, right, So I feel like that's actually pretty important. I think, just to I think it's pretty important, to have the but isn't it cool that like no one is forcing anybody to do anything? Right, and that is like the whole genesis of crypto, right? It's a very like all the information is there, if you want to research, and actually look into it, right? And I feel like I feel like the work you guys are doing is actually really important, just to shine more light on what's going on,
Now we're just shitting on people here, as you know. So we don't do educational stuff really, at least not so far.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's do a big poop.
Let's shit on you. Yeah.
Let's go.
Two Girls, One Cup, you know the video? Alp, you're on mute, by the way.
Dude, you're such a shit talker, man. What's going on with you? Sorry. Oh my god, you're such a shit talker. What the fuck?
I'm sorry, yes. I should have done more research instead of shit talking, yeah.
I just wanted to ask what advice you would have to aspiring founders looking to build in the DeFi space or in the Solana ecosystem.
It's also, I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because like, it's like, it's really interesting. I know. I got it. It's like, don't get caught up in hype. Don't, right? It's like the hype just it's funny because like you need hype, right? Let's be clear, you need hype, right? Jupiter was very hyped, right? You know what I'm saying? You know what? Jupiter's really hyped, right? And then but then I feel like the good thing about it is that I think I think it's very easy to be extremely worried. Okay, I know. Sorry, I think here's the thing. Jupiter for a long time was not hyped at all, right? You know, for like no one cared. Like seriously, no one cared. That's why that's part of the reason why people were so surprised when Jupiter just came out nowhere, right? But the reason is because we worked our ass off, right? We just worked our ass off, right? You know, the bear years. Remember the bear years from like when Solana went down and shit and was shit, right? No one cared about Solana and Jupiter, right? So we just worked our ass off, right? Just improve the product. We didn't care about hype. Improve the product every single day. The only metric, the volume keep going down, but the only metric that went up was the user satisfaction, right? You know, that metric kept going up, right? You know, right? And I think that was really good for us, right? Because we ignored the hype, right? You know, right? To just keep building, right? And then when the time came, obviously we leveraged, you know, on the hype. You know what I'm saying? You know, not on the hype, but we kind of not. I was like hype, but we kind of like launched the right time, right? You know, to kind of get a certain amount of like awareness and traction. You know what I'm saying? Right. And now I feel like, but I think I didn't actually manage the hype that well, you know, right? I think, especially towards the end of things, right? You know, I think that's actually a big reason for a lot of the backlash I'm facing now, you know, right? So I feel like, learning how to like ignore the hype and like not worry about the lack of hype and do the work is really important. And then when the hype comes, just being like level-headed about it, you know, and not thinking of the best just because you're hyped up. That's really hard, by the way. It's really fucking hard. It's really fucking hard to like, you know, not think you're the best, the smartest fucking guy in the world, right? When the whole world is like, oh yeah, you're a genius, blah blah blah. No, it's really hard, right? And then like and later when the hype turns to fart, you know, right? You're just gonna, you know, you're just gonna be able to take it easy. I didn't do well there. I don't think I did too well there. Like,
I would slap your wrist if I were on your team and I read your Twitter. I would like cut your finger off at some point, to be honest.
I mean,
some things could have been done better.
Yeah. Come on, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But
I think it's the PFP. I think it's your profile image of a cat making you seem like a, you know, like a sleek, how do you call it? What's the English word? Like a cunning person, you know? And then it gives that vibe. Put something more like a nun there, you know, like or like something with a
monk or something. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, I think you know, I think learning how to deal with hype is very important. You know, right? Like just. Yeah, I feel like I could have done it better. Yeah.
No, all you said is true. All you said is actually valuable feedback. That's exactly how things are, really. But as a joke, to summarize, you said three things: hype, chart go up, leverage, and then FUD. So as a summary,
no, nothing, boom, FUD. Again. And you know what, guys? That's funny. If I'm lucky, right, I'll get to go through it several times. If I'm lucky, you know, right? Yeah, if I'm lucky, then if as a founder you're lucky, right? You gotta go through it several times, you know, and ideally just get better at it every time, you know. Ideally, you know, if you don't manage that cycle well, you die. You know, I feel like I mean, amazing respect, right, to people like Vitalik or Toli or these guys, right? Because they went through, like, it's very easy to die in those cycles, right? When there's no hype, it's very easy for a team to just demoralize and just give up. When there's too much hype, you know, it's very easy to just go, I'm the best, blah, and then just like, you know, and just get caught up and just do too much, right? As we've seen many times, right? You know, right? And then when it comes, just very just give up. I suck, right? You know, hates me, you know, right? So I feel like being able to, I feel like my very deep respect, right? You know, to people like Vitalik and Toli and many others in the space who just like who survived this cycle and just live many times, right? It's just amazing, you know, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, you know what? Even as I'm going through this thing right now, it's kind of tricky, but I appreciate the fact that there has been so many people before that did well, you know? Yeah, that's it. You know, happy with that. Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience, Meow?
Final thoughts. No, I mean, thanks everyone for paying attention to Jupiter. I think I hope you watch the whole thing. I hope you don't, I hope you try the product. I hope you talk to us on Twitter or Discord. I hope you are fair. I hope you, I hope to get to know you. Yeah. I think, and it's a long game. It's a very long game, and we intend to be here for a long time, right? Yeah. So, that's, and I'm sure we'll have many chances to interact. Yeah, that's all.
Fantastic. Well, Meow, again, great to have you on. We learned a lot. I certainly have gained a different perspective on the ins and outs of Jupiter, and both you as a founder. So it's been a great conversation.
Cool.
And looking forward to what happens to Jupiter next.
Me too.
That was a hysteric laugh. You're not really looking forward to it. You're like, fuck me.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that's happened. Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.